Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Concord Township Board of Trustees meeting for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Lucci?
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer?
Present.
Mr. McIntosh?
Present. We're going to sort of a last minute add to the agenda here this evening. So before we get to the approval of the minutes, I'd like to welcome Corey from Cardinal Woodworking, who's here to make a presentation to the township this evening. Great.
Is this okay here?
Yeah.
If you want to, yes, just if you can speak so we can get you on the record, that'd be great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Corey from Cardinal Woodworking. I am a small business located in Mentor, Ohio. So the chief and I had been talking last year about building a new fire table for the fire station. And there was some oak that had been reclaimed from the service department that was reclaimed off of Cryle Road. So I had enough extra where I could make a flag for the actual township, for the actual hall. So this flag, along with the frame, is made from all the oak from that Cryle Road.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Really beautiful.
Great work.
Nice.
So this over here. Great. I don't really have much to say. But thank you guys, though. I really do.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also just want to thank Corey and Cardinal Woodworking. Corey's been making flags for several of the fire departments, police departments. He's been doing retirement flags from a lot of sources, locally sourced wood, from old barns and houses that he's reclaimed, just to kind of keep that history local. That's why it was important that we were able to salvage and the service department, Frank Kreska, had the forethought to save that lumber from rerouting Cryle Road for future projects just like this. Just like the podium and the tables that we have were salvaged from the oak tree on the Concord Township property. So it keeps all that within Concord and extends for its life forever. So we appreciate Corey, and again, he's going to be building our kitchen table for the new firehouse.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, I'll take the picture. You hold the flag. Okay. Place the trustees next to you. Yep. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice work.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Approval of the minutes from the July 19th regular trustee.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the July 19th, 2023 regular trustees meeting minutes.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Elected official report. Mr. Tekkanen.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. As of July 31st, we were 58% of the way through the calendar year. The treasury balance for the 21 active funds within the township treasury was $10,023,000. The treasury balance includes $4.2 million in funds which are set aside for specific projects. Year-to-date expenditures were 55% of the amount appropriated for 2023. The revenue received year-to-date is 71%, and this includes an advance on the second half of our real estate taxes. So far, we are within budget. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tekkanen. Trustees, Mrs. Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it was certainly enjoyable. Our last summer concert last week was a huge crowd. It was a great day. We're looking forward to next weekend already is Community Day. It's very hard to believe. Appreciate everyone had made those concerts a success. We got to visit the new model home on Cannerwood this past week, which was a very nice home. The development will be moving along soon, and I think it'll be a very nice addition to Concord. I did get a few questions from residents regarding the resolutions that was passed at the last meeting to consider a replacement levy for additional revenue for safety services. More discussion is to come on that, and we will most likely be providing a meeting for more information and opportunity to ask more questions. I did have a resident call to talk about water issues who lives east of Girdled, sort of issues that have been there for some time. Resident also complained about some speeding, dirt bikes, four-wheelers down Girdled. I asked Sergeant Infalvi to help with that, and he did respond very quickly to have the speed trailer in that area, so thank you very much. We did have a staff meeting on Monday to hear updates from each of our department heads. We are looking forward to a visit from our congressman tomorrow to visit the fire station, and so that'll be nice. And the fire station is nearing completion, so we're anxiously awaiting that. We will not be having another meeting until September after this, and so it's back to school time, so I wish everyone going back to school a great, successful year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Lucci. Mr. Dondorfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd like to thank our rec department for putting on a great summer concert series this summer. A lot of people coming out to enjoy those concerts, except for the two that we had canceled, are rescheduled. I'd like to also remind everyone, Community Days coming up on August 12th. Come out and join us for a fun-filled day. We'll all be out here. We're really looking forward to that. I did enjoy the visit to Cannerwood Farms. I think it's a nice development, sort of a residential concept with a clubhouse, and it seems to be a nice unit. I think the builder did a nice job. So I looked. That was a nice event. I did have a couple questions about some zoning issues, violations specifically that we're working through with our zoning department. I did have a couple questions regarding the safety services issue. I'm just glad to see the sheriff is here with us today, and I know we'll have some, I'll save my comments for that as we get further into the meeting. And other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. Been a fairly busy couple of weeks. I had the opportunity to attend the mayors and managers meeting for July with Administrator Rose, and we had the opportunity to tour the, which I guess is going to have a ribbon cutting tomorrow, the law enforcement training center that was funded by the county that is available to all of the agencies across Lake County. It's impressive. I really found it constructive and interesting that the commissioners and the sheriff's department had the forethought to be very open about it. Something that all the municipalities can work and train with, and it isn't going to cost them money. And I think that's when we've got safety on the levee, and we've talked about, or we will have at some point. Be talking about that and working within the other communities and seeing that, law enforcement and safety across the townships, the county is a thing, and it's nice to see the governments all, working together. Hopefully they've done a nice job with that. Hopefully they get some traffic with it. We did have a really fantastic turnout Thursday for our last concert of the season, save the two that will be rescheduled. We did enjoy the Cannerwood. It's nice to get an opportunity to tour these developments when they start opening. You always get curious what's going in there after you make an approval. I did end up having a meeting, kind of an urgent meeting with the Lake County Township Association. All of the township administrators and some of the one trustee from each community showed up, and we got a briefing from Auditor Galloway about the memo that Prosecutor Colson put out about the local government fund. So we're going to start getting into that. There's going to be a series of meetings. I do plan to attend those, and that has to do with the formulation and how those monies that come to the state are distributed within the county. There's been some chatter, so we'll be staying engaged on that. Did have an email from a resident about Ellison Creek, which is ongoing. I know Mr. Rose and I are still waiting for some feedback from the county as we work through that issue. And I've continued to be really involved with the fire station project. We've had some delays with some flooring in the apparatus bay. We had the cabinets reworked, and those have been delivered. We're still working through the generator issue, and but I did get a chance to briskly walk through there today. It's going to be nice for our congressman to get a walk through tomorrow. So it's really coming to fruition, and I think it will be a project that we can all be proud of once we get to this open date, which we still don't have that yet. And with that, it concludes my report. We'll move into departments. Administrator Rose.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh, members of the board. Yes. Few items on the agenda I'd like to cover. Items C, D, and E. Those are the resolutions to have the issue of a safety services replacement levy for police protection and fire services placed on the ballot for the November election. If you remember, there were 3 resolutions that were recently passed, which allowed the county auditor to certify the potential tax amounts. We've received those. So we have the 3 options that are presented to you so you can evaluate the best course of action and move forward and go from there. The sanitary sewer line extension on Auburn Road is complete, and the community center is tied into the system and working just fine. The contractor's cleaning up the punch list while he's doing the restoration work to the dirt, and they should be planting grass seed probably by the end of the week. The water line project is moving along smartly. Surveys are complete. Detailed drawings and construction plans are currently being drawn up. Once those are complete, there will be some additional reviews and coordination both with Painesville Water and the Lake County Engineer's Office, since this project does take place along County Road right-of-way. But we anticipate this project should be ready to go out for bid in the late fall. And then it's hard to believe, but I would like to wish all the students returning to school a terrific year. And speaking of that, and not trying to steal the sheriff's office thunder, but speaking of back to school, we're gonna have kids at the bus stop very soon, and I strongly urge motorists to please be mindful of that and slow down. I can't put enough emphasis on that. Just watch out for the little ones. And then finally, I look forward to seeing everybody at Community Day on August 12th. I hope we have a spectacular turnout. Come find me and we can have a great chat. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Fire Department Chief Sabo.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
So we had a busy month for July with 259 total events. We had 183 EMS events with 133 transports. We had 76 non-EMS events. We had 6 fire events, including inside of Concord. We had 1 shed fire, 2 garage fires, and 1 vehicle fire. Outside of Concord, we assisted with 1 residential structure fire and 1 smoke odors from a residence. We gave mutual aid 23 times and received mutual aid 13 times. And we had 76 overlapping calls for about 30% of our call volume. Our Fire Prevention Bureau, again, was busy with 63 inspections, accounting for about 100 hours. The UH Urgent Care accounted for 18 hours just in and of itself, so that's quite extensive. They also did 7 plan reviews and tent permit reviews. I believe that includes the Community Day tent plan review. So that was good, exciting to do that for our Recreation Department, accounting for about 13 hours. And then we also had 3 fire investigations inside Concord Township. So we had 4 total fires inside of Concord. 3 of those were investigated by our team. We worked very closely with the insurance companies to come to a successful conclusion for the homeowners. In terms of public education, we wrapped up a 2-day course on July 12th and 13th for 10 youths that are now trained in American Red Cross babysitting. So this was our maiden voyage with the babysitting class, and I think it went off fantastically. And we want to congratulate and thank the students and the kids that participated in that. That was a great success. And actually, I think we have another one scheduled off of a waiting list. So it was very successful. We also installed 2 residential lock boxes and had 1 returned. And I also want to take a moment to congratulate, there were 10 firefighters on Saturday morning completed their testing for officer promotionals. And that's not an easy task. And I remember going back to the days when I went through that process, and I was sweating bullets for weeks, sometimes months up to that event. And these gentlemen really showed the leadership of Concord Township, and I'm not talking about myself or Deputy Chief, but their officers, their direct supervisors and leadership, and really represented our department well through that assessment process, and we're just really proud of them. And we got really good feedback from the assessors that are just top notch in the fire service around the state. So I'm really proud of them. And just to tap myself on the back, I dusted off the paramedic book, and I actually went to the Lake County Fair and worked the first aid tent on Sunday.
Great.
So that was the first time I ever worked the fair, and I hope I get invited back. So we'll see how that goes.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Service Department, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Service Department in the month of July responded to 4 incidents for downed trees in the roadway. 3 of the incidents were after-hour responses. We also assisted the fire department with some road closures due to trees down with wires in recent storms. The second round of our roadside mowing was performed. Our crews continued with crack sealing, durapatching, concrete slab replacement throughout the township. The Lake County engineers performed their annual street sweeping program in Concord Township. We thank the engineers for their continued support with that. Materials for the several street name signs that have been missing throughout the township has finally come in, and new signs are being made. The new signs will be replaced in the coming weeks by the Service Department. The 2023 joint road resurfacing projects are progressing well. Huntoon, Grave, and Rogers Roads have received their intermediate asphalt course and await the chip and seal with fog coat surface course. The Noble Ridge subdivision is receiving concrete curb repair, and this week, and the asphalt service course is scheduled to be installed on the week of 8/7. Completion of the project is on schedule for the end of August. The Lake County Engineers Prouty Road resurfacing project is nearing completion and is scheduled to be completed by September. The Service Department will offer the yard waste drop-off beginning on September 5th, Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The drop-off will end November 27th at 2:30 p.m. The Fall Brush Day collection dates are set for Saturdays, October 14th and 21st at 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Some good news for the Service Department. This morning, the administrator and I met with civil and environmental consultants and ACM Construction Management for the on-site pre-construction meeting for the Service Department's new 60 by 80 storage building. ACM plans to mobilize on Monday, 8/7. The storage building will house the department's equipment that has currently been stored outdoors and help prolong the life of the equipment. The Service Department encourages residents with questions or concerns to contact us at 440-350-3225 or by email at concordtwp.com under Service Department. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank
I
you.
know getting that service building in place to take care of our equipment is gonna be huge. I know that's something residents don't see a lot, but I had a chance to see the condition of that equipment that has to sit outside, and this is big for us. It's gonna be nice, yeah. Zoning, Mrs. Heather Freeman.
No problem.
Water bottle. What an entrance. Okay. So during the month of July, the zoning department staff processed 32 zoning permit applications, and we collected about $5,000 in fees. We were also busy doing some on-site inspections and completed 75 property inspections with open zoning permits, while issuing 24 zoning certificate of compliances for projects that were completed. We also received and followed up on 20 new complaints about potential zoning violations. More than half of those have been resolved, which is good. Last night, the zoning commission met. They had a public hearing on a small text amendment for the swimming pool enclosure requirements, and that will be transmitted to this board shortly for your consideration. Next week, our Board of Zoning Appeals will have a meeting on Wednesday, and they're going to have 3 variance applications in front of them. The detailed agenda is on our website if anyone's interested to see what it is. And as always, if you have any questions about what's going on, what's being built, or any zoning questions, please feel free to give me a call, 440-354-7506.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recreation, Mr. Super.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing today? Just want to start off with a recap of some of our July events. As everyone talked about, we finished up our summer concert series last Thursday. The packed house, listening to music from Abbey Rodeo. Overall, we had a great summer concert series. We did have 2 cancellations, some weather issues, and smoke from wildfires that we were dodging all summer. But for the most part, it was a pretty successful concert series. We did have 2 canceled concerts that I'll go over a little bit later here that were rescheduled. In July 19th to the 21st, we had our tennis camp for 5 to 10-year-olds. We had 14 kids signed up for that. Our rookie sports baseball for 3 to 7-year-olds or 8-year-olds finally finished up last night, actually. So thank you to Rookie Sports and their coach Mitchell for running an excellent program. I actually got an email last night after the program ended from a parent. I figured I'd share that with you guys. Just wanted to send you a quick message to let you know we were so happy with the Rookie Sports T-ball program, and Coach Mitchell was awesome. We've done so many little kids sports programs in this area and always been so unhappy with them. This program was really organized, and I felt like the kids actually learned something and had so much fun. My sister signed up my niece too, and she said she was also very impressed. So it's great. It's always great getting those types of emails and messages from people who went through those programs. So, and I forwarded that on to Rookie Sports as well, and they were obviously very thankful and always glad to hear those types of positive feedbacks. Now for some of our upcoming programs and events, our 55 plus group. Today we had a presentation called Dementia Conversations with the Alzheimer's Association. Next week we do not have a social because of Community Day setup. August 29th is Identity Theft Prevention, presented by the Lake County Treasurer's Office. And August 30th is our Senior Citizen Appreciation Celebration. So hope to see our 55 plus participants at all those. Now for the big events. Saturday, August 12th, as everyone's been talking about, is our Community Day. Please make sure you check the website, Concord TWP, for all the information, the detailed schedules. We made a nice little map. Susie created a map, kind of has all the parade routes and where all the features are going to be throughout Community Day, but I'll highlight a few of them right now. Our bike education and safety program at Jordan Creek that will run from 8:30 to 10. That includes a family ride down the Greenway corridor. Our fire department pancake breakfast from 8 to 11. We have a free yoga class at the gazebo from 8:30 to 9:15. That's presented by Lake Yoga. Old Stone school tours will take place from 10 to 11 and 5 to 6. So please make sure you check out Old Stone School and Dan Maxon and all the stuff that he has going on over there. The Concord Parade will return after, I think, 5 years, and that will start at 11:15 and run down from Far Hills to run down Concord Hamden Road past the new fire station. Again, check the website for the map for the actual route for that. In the afternoon activities, we'll run from 4 to 10. That includes Kids World, which has a DJ and karaoke. We have Concord Alliance Church is running games, carnival games, bounce houses, reptile shows, face painters, balloon twisters, and the always popular frog jump. We'll have beer and wine sales, plenty of food trucks. Our bands for the evening will be Blue Evolution and Jersey Beats, and that will be capped off with our fireworks show. So please, we hope to see everyone out there. Hopefully everyone will be receiving a postcard in the mail, and it's also in the ballot pack that'll be released this week as well. So A couple new programs that we have coming up in the fall that I want to highlight. Our first rescheduled fall concert will be Thursday, September 14th from 6 to 8 at the Gazebo, and that will be with Four Kings and a Queen. Please note the new time, 6 to 8. We moved it a little earlier. Obviously, we're not in the summer anymore, so we want to try and get as many people there as possible. On Saturday, September 16th, Saturday, September 16th, will be picnic and a movie at the Gazebo. So pack your dinner, blankets, chairs, come out and watch Super Mario Brothers on a giant inflatable screen. Showtime will be roughly 6 p.m. that day. We're going to have much more details on that to follow. That will be a free event for everyone, so we hope to see everyone. I did it on a Saturday to avoid our high school football night here in this area, so we hope to see everyone out there for that event. Then our last two quick events here. Saturday, October 21st will be our Halloween Spooktacular, and that will feature our other rained out concert with In Cahoots as well. And that'll be during the afternoon, 12 to 2:30 that day. We'll have much more information on that as well. And then lastly, we have our first adaptive program, which will be our special needs group, and we're going to do adaptive Halloween dance party at the community center. That'll be on Friday, October 27th. That'll be a DJ, dancing, costume contest, food, and more. I'm working with Jim Meadows, who's one of our facility attendants who works at the Metro Parks, and we're going to be slowly but surely releasing more programs for our special needs population. Can't forget about them as well. So outside of that, please continue to sign up for the e-grapevine. Check our website, concordtwp.com, for all our information. Our fall grapevine is being worked on right now, and that'll be released hopefully by the end of this month for hit everyone early September. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, please feel free to call the Recreation Department anytime, 440-639-4650, and we would love to assist you. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. You guys have done a really great job this summer with the concerts.
Yes.
Thank you. And
Everything.
I did get the postcard just yesterday too. I was pretty excited
Yes,
about that.
yeah, that was great.
That was great. All right, Concord Law Enforcement Sergeant Fowley.
Good evening.
Hey.
For July of 2023, the Lake County Sheriff's Office handled 1,259 calls for service. Of those calls for service, 5 were injury accidents. One of the injury accidents included a van with 9 individuals inside the van, plus a second vehicle that had the operator of the vehicle. That was on 44 between 90 and 84. Several people were life flighted. Everybody is recovering nicely. And the accident investigation team for Lake County, as well as the specialists that are on the Lake County Sheriff's Office, responded to that and contributed to the investigation. Also, 10 property damage accidents involving vehicles. Arrests for the month of July, 1 adult male for OVI, adult male for criminal trespassing, adult female for assault, adult female for disorderly conduct, an adult male for domestic violence and assault, an adult male for possession of methamphetamine as a result of a traffic stop. We also responded to 52 alarms. We issued 17 citations for various traffic violations, and then we also issued 135 traffic violation warnings. 7 of those were citations were driving under suspensions. A few of the bigger numbers: 16 disturbances, 26 hazards, 58 suspicious circumstances, vehicles and persons, 30 traffic complaints, and 13 welfare checks. We have the speed trail. I just picked up the speed trailers today from Cascade and from State Route 84. Those will be moved to Prouty and Girdle Road. Our flock camera is up at 84 and Chestnut at the 44 exit ramp. The 2 others that are going to be in the 44 corridor are moving along. ODOT is moving those pretty quickly. They don't foresee it taking much longer, so those should be up momentarily. We are ready for Concord Community Days. will be conducting the security and the traffic control in the evening, and also we will have deputies for the parade route, as well as our honor guard, our mounted unit, and our SWAT vehicle for the parade. Carrie Sorber will be the new deputy that will be conducting security full-time at the Parkside Elementary School right here on 608. We are going to be conducting with the road department and the fire department touch a truck at the Goddard School on August 8th. We just had National Night Out in the Painesville City Park, huge event. A lot of public safety officials and firefighting and other tow truck operators. We had a huge crowd, so that was great to see. We also provided security and some public outreach at the fair all week. Every deputy in Lake County, in the Sheriff's Office, will be receiving CPR classes here in the near future. 3 of our deputies just got certified as instructors in CPR and will be conducting the training with everybody. We have also had 3, actually I think it might be 4 now, 4 instances where deputies conducted CPR in a timely fashion and resulted in a successful resuscitation outcome for the patients. We will be participating in the September 16th movie night in some capacity as public outreach. And there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. Oh, and we just have 3 new deputies out on who will be training with the Sheriff's Office here and will be added to our fleet, our crew once they are done with FTO. One of those being an Explorer that was an Explorer with our Sheriff's Office, so I'm excited to say that he is now going to be a full-time deputy with the Lake County Sheriff's Office on the road patrol. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant. All right, so moving into the audience portion, I know we have a virtual, so I'll start with in-person audience. Anyone wishing to address the board this evening? Mr. Massey?
Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive, on behalf of Lobbyists for Citizens. Mr. McIntosh did mention about the change in the local government funds, but I'm here to tell everybody in the audience that may be watching this, there's not only just a change, but Mr. Colson, Prosecutor Colson, has determined that since 2013, that it's been illegally distributed. And I think everybody in Concord should know that. Everybody in Lake County should know that. I did a study on local government funds, and I think I've spoken to you before about this, how all of the townships have been shortchanged with that 1982 formula. What we've been doing is we've been financing and redistributing the money to the cities. Wade Hill gets more money than we do. Lake Metro Parks gets more money than we do on a local government fund distribution. Painesville Township Park gets half of what we do, a park. So I would hope all 3 of you are going to be actively involved in making sure that Concord Township gets our fair share of this new distribution. I did a study back 2010 to 2019, looking at all of the distribution of all of the funds based on the 1982 formula. And I said, well, what would happen if the distribution was based on just population? And I found that in that period from 2010 to 2019, that we were shortchanged over $6 million just based on population. Now, I know you can't do anything about, what happened, in the past, but I'm asking you to really fight for the people on this distribution. Now, I know if you cannot come up with a consensus, there's no agreement with all these municipalities, I know they're all going to be fighting, that it's going to go back to the, defaults to the state mandated formula, which I understand states that the county will get 50% of the distribution. And how much money are we talking about? Well, it was over $13 million, for 2023. I got from the auditors department. And what also I'd like to mention to you, I see you have on the agenda that you're going to be voting on a replacement levy. And I'm just wondering, do you have all the information that you need? We really don't know what our local government fund distribution is going to be. It may be half, maybe twice. And would that influence your decision on what the safety levy should be? So I just would like you to think about that. And I'm really not, I don't think people are going to be very happy that there's been an illegal distribution since 2013. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Massey, I'd like to address a couple of the comments that you made. First, this issue's come to light, honestly, based on township activity. We're the ones that were sort of looking at it, the LCTA specifically, something I've been a part of that all year. And it kind of got leaked out and that we were looking at it, and others have picked up the ball and run. As I've been cautioned by multiple legal opinions, is that Prosecutor Colson's opinion is an opinion, and I'm already hearing that others are disputing that premise. So stand by for that. I'm not in a position to sort of share that. I take it as gossip and whatnot. I don't know who's going to do it, but I was also cautioned with the fact that the Attorney General's office is going to weigh on this. So it is only the interpretation of Prosecutor Colson at this point that it isn't illegal. I also understand how the state formula works, and we could get less out of state formula, I think is what you were trying to say at the close of your remarks. So I don't know that it's fair. I would agree with you both, as a trustee and as a fellow Concord resident, that I feel the townships have been shortchanged, but we sort of look at this and the formulas both that county uses now and the state formula, they take into multiple. I don't think any of them factor in one thing. So I would love to see the distribution go by population because we've done a little bit of work, and absolutely that would be a beneficial thing for Concord Township and some of the things that we've had to deal with this board, constructing fire stations and adding, dealing with growing safety budgets and so forth. Yes, this would be very helpful, but I don't know. It's very foggy as to that, and I know that the auditor is going to be holding the meeting, and in order to really understand what the state formulation requires, there's information that's needed from each of the entities to then which his office is going to have to put that through the grinder and figure it out. So it's very unclear as to how that's going to work. So I only say these things because if anyone's watching, I don't want people to get their hopes up too much. Rest assured, we have been and as Mr. Galloway is one of our predecessors, I mean, he and I have talked about this numerous times over the years. And so I've taken it as a priority to look at that. And then again, this is coming to light because the townships were nosing around.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes, for years I've been talking to Auditor Galloway about that. In fact, he was the one that said, I keep using his expression that we're a donor community, and I didn't understand that until I actually saw the numbers. And I appreciate you, stepping up and mentioning that. And I do know that the formula, it's extremely state mandated formula, extremely complex. I haven't met anyone that says they really understand it.
Yes.
And I think there is only one county in the state that is actually doing that. Coshocton. So I just,
most of my understanding is in the auditors, their circle of their association on that, most of the auditors don't like it, don't want to have to deal with it because it's rather cumbersome. So
it's like a 4-page formula.
Yeah,
so.
It's, again, I was made aware of this, called a meeting of the association, had the auditor come in and give us a factual presentation from his perspective. He was one of the people who said, look, I realize this is Colson's opinion, that another attorney may look at this a different way. There may be more information come to light. So I wouldn't want to say that I wouldn't want to mislead the public. Like, there could be more to this. There's twists and turns. And yes, by one theory of thinking, it could be very beneficial to Concord. Depending on how it goes, it could steer the other direction. We could get hurt in this. So I appreciate that you're considering it. You're asking us to consider that 360. We have to go through things today. More than likely, it's a multi-year process, so we can talk about our levy
I
options.
would say that my experience with Prosecutor Colson, though, when he says something and he puts it in writing,
Right.
he's not doing that sort of
lightly.
willy-nilly, because I have challenged him on his stance on the Budget Commission, where he has basically neutralized the Budget Commission. There are no watchdogs in the county government for the people, because as I said before, you can submit a tax budget and they just rubber stamp it because they can't make any change. Thank you very much.
Anyway, suffice it to say that it'll be a process, so I think this is going to play out. I know the auditor's looking for, we don't expect a lot of movement in this in the next year or two.
Yeah, I also think the earliest we would see an actual change, once you go through all the wickets of changing the local government formula, would be 25.
Maybe.
Would be the earliest.
The other thing I'll say in closing is that having traveled in the circles and go to the mayors and managers meeting, and as the townships, the LCTAs made the pitches, Carl, when you and I went there, the funny jokes now are about, all the townships should just quit their complaining and become cities. That's what all the West End entities are sort of. In fact, there's a certain mayor that likes to introduce me as a councilman from Concord Township just to drive home the point. That's getting old. Anyway, any other members of the audience? Virtual, Mrs. Pesic.
Yes, thank you. I see on the
Turn that up. I can't hear. Hold on, Vanessa. Give that a try.
Try that. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Okay, sure. Can
There
you
we
hear
go.
me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I see on the agenda there is a replacement and an increased levy proposal, actually 3 of them. And I was wondering, for each proposed levy level, do you know how much money it will generate? And also, do you have a detailed list of how the money will be allocated? So how much would go to the sheriff for patrolling cars? How much to emergency medical services? How much to the fire department and any other sources that would receive money from this tax levy?
We do have the certifications from the auditor's office that was provided.
We do. Depending on there were 3 options presented that were passed by resolution. Oh, thank you.
That's easier to read.
Yep, this is, the 6.3 mil option would generate $5,203,000. The 6.5 mil option would generate $5,368,000. And the 7 mil option would generate $5,781,000. Those are the 3 options. Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. And do you have a detailed list of how the money would be allocated, how you plan to spend it?
We'll go with it.
I would, well.
Yeah, Vanessa, it's Carl here. I plan on covering that in my comments here once we have some discussion on the votes here. So I will address that.
I mean, the only thing I'd say at this point is our appropriations process usually drives that home, and we have some estimates and some projections that were provided by the fiscal officer to each of the trustees. I think at this time, we do plan to put information out as to answer those specifically, and they can be answered in a more detailed manner. Not probably appropriate to do that in this meeting, but we do have that information, and we'll be able to provide it.
Wonderful. Great. I look forward to receiving it. Thank you. That's all.
All right, thank you. Okay, anything else from the audience? All right, moving on to old business, and here, seeing if there is none, we'll go into the new business for the evening.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve fire department purchase order to Uline in an amount not to exceed $11,500 for furniture in the new fire station.
And I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3 ayes.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the 2023 records disposal RC-3 per our records retention policy.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3 ayes. I think before we get to the votes, I do know that we would like to have some conversation, but I do want to begin with fiscal officer Mr. Tekeniff, because I believe he has some comments about these 3 resolutions. Mr. Tekeniff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Just wanted to mention too, some of these figures are preliminary that we worked on in the budgets. The tax budget we were working on a few months ago, and I'm new here, but we worked on it with the fire department extensively and the administration too, when it came to the safety levy. One of the first things I noticed when I was appointed to the position of fiscal officer was how the safety forces were different in cities. I came from city background, and a lot more lean on the revenues coming in to the safety forces, and how they manage them was quite remarkable to me. So I've looked at those closely. The tax budget does show for 2024 that we're going to have a rough time starting the 2024 beginning of the year with pure safety levy type funding. The township has utilized some other resources over the last probably few years, or maybe longer. I've only been here for half a year plus, but they include JED funding, ARPA funding, and it kind of masks the need for the real true pure safety services that the township needs. Concord is growing. Population is, 20,000 people, 25, almost
19 and change.
approaching 20,000, 23 plus square miles, way bigger than some of the cities that I worked for in the last 30 years. So it's a lot of area to cover. And so meeting with the trustees, the fire chief, the administration, I do have a recommendation to put a safety levy on the ballot for November of this year. And as Mr. Rose stated earlier this evening, the Concord Township trustees requested the Lake County Auditor to certify estimated property tax revenues for much needed additional revenue for our safety services. This evening's agenda includes 3 resolutions, which incorporates additional millage certified by the county auditor. After a thorough reviewing of the 3 options, I did come up with a recommendation. My recommendation is for the trustees to approve resolution number 2023-17, and this resolution will replace the existing continuous 4 mil tax levy, which I really struggled with. I've never replaced a continuous tax mill levy, but I think we need to do it. We talked about the local government funding, where it's up right now. So we could exercise some of our prudence that we have to see what we can fiscally do with a captivated 5-year levy of increasing that 4 mils to 2.5 mils. And that would give us a total of 6.5 mils. Again, I lose sleep over continuous levies disappearing if this passes, and we would go to a 5-year term on this. And it scares me a little bit, but I think it's the right thing to do with the way we're talking about this local government fund and some issues with that even this evening. And this millage would be for 5 years for police, fire, and EMS services for Concord Township. And again, my recommendation is for the trustees to adopt Resolution 2023-17. And this would be eliminating the anticipated shortfalls for our safety forces over the next 5 years. That's my
Thank you.
recommendation.
Thank you, Jim. Trustees.
Yeah, so I'll start out if I can, Mr. Chairman. You know, we have an obligation as the trustees here to make sure our residents and our community understand what this resolution is about. So in its simplest terms, this is about being able to continue to provide adequate levels of public safety staffing to keep our growing community safe. And this is not something that we weren't aware of. This is something that's been in a plan with the sheriff and the sheriff's department for a number of years. I believe we started in contract. We have the sheriff here today. I'm glad because he could maybe expound on this, but we entered into a contract in I think 2008, 2009 for patrol services. Law enforcement specifically for the townships. And at that initial onset of the townships entering into a contract, there was a plan to add a certain amount of resources over the years to sustain proactive law enforcement in the township and as well as staffing. What we couldn't, or what the board couldn't forecast when that initial safety levy took place was some of the problems that have been confronted with the industry most recently, and that's sort of threefold. The number of new cadets entering the profession is virtually very low. Vetting qualified candidates is substantially harder, and that's a very difficult challenge for law enforcement. Secondly, we have a large number of early retirements, officers that are leaving the profession for other fields because of various factors, stress, work environment, there's a number of them. And third, we're confronted nationally with veteran officers that have the knowledge and expertise of doing this job, leaving jurisdictions and going to jurisdictions that have better benefits packages. So with that sort of perfect storm in place, you know, I know when this initial levy came into place, I don't believe that we would have the ability to forecast the challenges that we have right now. So what does that mean about sustaining our current staffing levels? It's very important, and I know that I commend the sheriff and the county commissioners on their ability to recognize that the staffing levels at the sheriff's department and the officers that are there at the sheriff's department needed to be brought up to a more comparable standard of benefits that is comparable not only within the county but adjacent counties. And you know, with that, they recognize how you can't put a dollar sign on experienced and veteran officers. Once you lose those officers and try to replace them with a cadre of new officers, there's a learning curve that takes at least 5 years to be able to have that expertise to recognize what you're doing in the field. So what we're seeing in some of those jurisdictions that haven't been able to maintain their resources, they've gone to, and I've talked about this as the last meeting, you see some jurisdictions in reactive policing where they don't have the resources that they need on the streets. So what they're doing is they're pulling their detectives out, they're putting them back in uniform on patrol. They're taking their task force officers, putting them back on in the patrol so they can react and respond to calls for service. So how does that impact that law enforcement agency? It's twofold. You don't get to do proactive patrols, which is getting out in front of the crime, being proactive, having the resources to get out and identify crime before it happens. Or if the crime does happen, having the ability of skilled, expert investigators that can chase down leads and have the time to do that so they can apprehend the offenders before they victimize somebody else. So that's important to be able to have and maintain that level of staffing that we've been able to work for over the years. And what we're seeing in communities very close to us is the inability to do that. And it really does have an impact on the safety of a community. The crime increases. There's not enough resources out there to do proactive policing. There's not enough resources out there to respond to those flock hits, those investments of those cameras that are a great tool for law enforcement. You have to have the ability of the officers to react to those and get that offender that's wanted on a felony warrant, or get that person that's in a stolen vehicle that's obviously in this jurisdiction, probably to commit some other type of offense. So it's important, and you know, a lot of this, some of this cost that wasn't forecasted when the initial levy was passed, a lot of it's a pass-through expense to us with the current increases that were justified at the Sheriff's Department, which the commissioners approved. And we are under a current, we funded an additional deputy working towards the 10 that was recommended by the sheriff. And then we entered into a sort of a COPS grant with the Board of Commissioners for another deputy, and we have to eventually fund that entire salary at the end of the grant program, which is, I believe, in 3 years. So unfortunately, 2 years. Unfortunately, the current levy will be unable to sustain the level of resources that we have built since 2008 that is imperative to the safety of this community. As a law enforcement officer full-time for 31 years, I can tell you I've never seen anything impact the industry as I have that we're going through right now. And it's so important for us to maintain the level of staffing that we have, the expertise in that staffing, so that we can continue to provide adequate safety for our residents. And it's not just law enforcement, it's also fire. You know, fire is getting impacted by staffing as well. There's a shortage of new firefighters coming into the industry. That's why we took the steps to complete this fire station project, because it's an investment to their health and safety and their ability to do their job, and for us to keep them safe and for them to do the best service they can for the community. And I commend the sheriff. He's been very proactive since becoming sheriff. I mean, this new training facility is second to none, and it is going to put every law enforcement officer within the county on the same playing field, training the same way, doing firearms the same way, responding to critical incident the same way, building searches the same way, the ability to get hands-on live training versus shooting at a paper target. That investment is huge towards letting the officers within the county know that the county's making an investment to, one, grow your expertise, and two, committed to keeping you here. So I'm passionate about it, not only as a police officer for 31 years, but as a chief now, because I know it's so important. And you know, we looked at, to answer Ms. Pesick's question, you know, we sat down with our fiscal officer and our appropriations, and we looked at our estimates and projections, and a lot of the money is going towards specifically the manpower resources to pay the deputies that can be out there to patrol, and to pay our firefighters to respond to emergency services to keep our community safe. That's where the majority of this money goes. And unfortunately, we've tried to, pay for that as the costs have increased. We used some ARPA funding, we used some JED funding, but it's not going to be able to sustain the level of resources that we have over the next years. And that's why we agreed that, in being transparent, we're willing to step away from a permanent levy and go to a 5-year levy, because we think we're doing what's best for the community here. So I'm sort of long-winded here, but I don't know, maybe if the sheriff has some comments, or if I didn't hit on anything, or if you'd like to say anything, you feel free to come to the podium. Or
okay, Sheriff, thank you.
Well, I would like to comment on the great selection of Andy Rose's socks this evening. That's good.
Thank you, sir.
It's a difficult thing to ask for additional monies in terms of levies today. And we in the police service as well as the fire service realize that. Somebody asked, well, crime levels aren't really that high here. Why do we need more policing? Why do we need to do that? And I respond by asking, how many people in the community have a burglar alarm? And if you asked all those individuals, well, how many of your houses have been broken into? 95% would say, well, they haven't. Why'd you get a burglar alarm? Well, to prevent crime. This is exactly what we need today in policing, is 47% of all serious crime, felonies in Lake County that occur, according to the Lake County prosecutor of cases he's handling, come from people who live outside Lake County. And these are individuals who fear coming into Lake County because they fear our judicial system. Why do they fear it? Not because it's unjust, they fear it because it's strict. If you commit crime in Lake County, you will be fairly prosecuted, and if you are convicted, you will go to jail. A lot of individuals, when they're arrested, they're like, well, we're just going to get out right away. Well, this isn't Cuyahoga County. You're in Lake County. Oh my God, I'm going to jail. I'm going to be prosecuted. Now think about 47% of all felons are coming from outside Lake County into a county they fear the justice system. They fear law enforcement because great investigations, great active law enforcement on the street. Think about it if there was no one there. If they felt there was a hole, how many other individuals would come into our community? What do they look for? They look for not a poor area. They look for opportunities to break into neighborhoods in our neighborhoods, to steal those vehicles, and to you also have, and I commented on this when I went to Mexico to look at the southern border. If you were to go onto the internet today, just type into the internet, identified cartel safe houses throughout the United States, you'd be shocked at the map that comes up. There is so much drug trade that is moving up the east and west coast, and it's coming across interstates like Interstate 90 that travel from New York out to California, and the cartel is actively involved in drugs. And with that comes amazing amounts of crime. And so we in our communities need to look at funding law enforcement. And you mentioned a great thing. 10 years ago, the average experience level of a deputy in our office was 15 years. Today, it's less than 4. We talked about our range facility. There's a lot of range instructors in policing throughout Lake County that have 2 years experience. It's not a lot of experience. We need to find ways not only to fund policing, but to give them great training. Our range facility that is going to be opening, what does that mean? It's not just target shooting. That doesn't work, just pointing at a standing target. It is having a system that allows you to go into an environment like a school, like a Walmart, and confront various scenarios where you have to make decisions on whether to talk your way through or to engage those individuals. We're building a facility that will have movable walls for training. We can move in a vehicle there, and we can practice in safe environments rather than sending people who have just shot at a target out and respond to real life scenarios. So these are the investments that need to be made today, and I believe it's important investments in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff. I can, circling back to something that Mr. Dondorfer said, regards to the 23 appropriations. I know that ended up working real close with Mr. Teganip and with our deputy chief and our fire staff as we sort of looked at the transition fiscal officer and really got into the details of it. So I can certainly say that staff here, the fire department, both Chief Sabo and Deputy Chief Bedell and Mr. Teganip did a lot of great homework here on, the sheriff contract is fairly simple. It's we pay a single amount. It's one line item. The fire department's budget's a bit more extensive. Suffice it to say that a majority of these budgets substantial, and I don't want to quote a percentage, so I won't, but we're paying for people here. It's, as Mr. Dondorfer mentioned, it's our firefighters, it's the law enforcement contract. While the law enforcement contract is a single amount per deputy, it is inclusive of support costs that the sheriff's department has to incur to staff those deputies. It's equipment, training, admin, dispatch, all of those things roll into that. In addition to, we're based on the cost of labor going up. When the contract renews, we're going to see a substantial increase. So we've taken into account all of those things as far as the budget and forward thinking to the best that we can at this moment in time. So just kind of hitting on that point. Mrs. Lucci, do you have some?
Yeah, I appreciate hearing from Carl and Sheriff. Certainly you live this world and you have an in-depth knowledge of what I think a community, our township, needs in order to sustain its safety forces and to keep our residents safe. I think, a resident may understand that, our township is growing. Crime is increasing. We need more deputies. There's increased cost law enforcement and fire department. And since 2016, those costs have really skyrocketed, really went up. So we don't have the revenue to support the same level of service that we're used to, that I believe Concord deserves. I mean, it is certainly very difficult to ask for money. I don't think anybody on this board enjoys asking for money. But you brought up the various reasons: training, providing the salaries, providing the benefits that we need to take care of our first responders, because they are the people that are taking care of us. So to me, that's incredibly important. When we hear the reports of, 1,259 incidents, the alarms you respond to, the traffic violations, the disturbances, the suspicious persons, the welfare checks, I think maybe we take those for granted a little bit. What fire does, the welfare checks you do, how many times, I always am amazed that the mutual or the concurring incidents is like 30% all the time. So obviously you need more people to take care of events that are happening all at the same time. When I go out there, I want to feel safe. When I'm sending my kid down the road or somewhere to a friend's house, I want to make sure that they're safe. And I think that's what the community understands at the level, and we need the funding, bottom line, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered to death, and I know going forward, but we've seen the crime statistics. Mr. Dondorfer and I were before the commissioners last fall, talked about the increase we saw post-pandemic. I did get fresh numbers from the sheriff's department. It's plateaued off, but in last year in 22, we deployed more deputies. Perry added a couple, right. Painesville added up, we added up, so there are more out there. So you've seen it stabilize. It didn't go down. Right. It stayed up. I did a little bit of looking. Fire department calls are up 46% in the last decade and about 36% since we last asked for funding. The calls for service, I know Chief sent us a report. We're running in that 30% window, constantly staffing. We have met with our fire department command staff, and we did all those interviews the last couple of years, getting with hiring firefighters, doing promotional interviews. We see the excellent fire staff that we have here. We recognize the need to give them the tools and the facilities they need. We need to retain these people. Those facilities are part of that retention function, part of giving them the tools, part of a good place to work. But we know our community loves it. There isn't a time I don't run across a resident that says, fire department's great. And we hear it all the time. We hear it from the sheriff's department. I mean, look at the investment that's being made, top notch. I mean, the sheriff's department's covering a huge chunk, and we're working cooperatively with other townships because policing this end of the county is a joint effort. It takes all of us together. If the other townships don't participate as much as they are, it makes it harder. So that's been a cooperative intergovernment working. Going back, 7 years, I mean, here we are, and Mr. Tekenip alluded to it, that ARPA and CARES Act money sort of helped us the last couple of years, and I believe Fiscal Officer Dawson mentioned that a few times. So when you think about the idea of continuous is that, hey, it never changes, clearly it didn't make 10 years, which, the normal, we can do continuous or we can do 5. Right. But we were clearly sputtering the last couple of years on it, just getting by. And so I think the responsible approach is to take a 5-year look, because I don't know that I can tell the residents that, hey, we could throw this number, it'll make 10 years. I mean, the record shows that it wouldn't. So I think it's better to be making the case for it. It was an experiment the last board tried fine and wasn't wrong, but we're in a spot. And I think the 5 years, the more responsible approach, gives us the flexibility to go up or down, whatever we need to do. So,
and this isn't just impacting Concord; it's impacting Painesville Township, Perry Township. They recognize the need to increase their or maintain the current level of resources that they have. And with that, maintaining those level of resources gives us the capability to utilize the other assets that the sheriff has, a cadre of great detectives that can go out and investigate crimes if there's something that happens in Concord Township. At the same time, we're keeping our road deputies that we're under contract with on the road. Having those cadre of officers to go out and investigate crime, identify it, make arrests, or identify crime before it happens is huge, as well as the other assets that are provided by the sheriff that, we couldn't sustain with the department of our own.
I do agree with you with the continuous, getting rid of the continuous, because I think it's important to have the voters have a say in 5 years, right? Why should, a continuous levy maintain its steadiness when things change and maybe, circumstances change? So I think it gives the voters a right to be able to reflect that in 5 years.
I just want to put a few things in perspective, not to throw out a lot of numbers. Townships, cities, those names can be misleading. Concord and Painesville Township, I believe, are the 4th and 5th largest communities in Lake County. To give you some idea, one of the cities is 2.5 miles, square miles. That's what they patrol. And they have 3 police officers on the street in Lake County in that community at all times.
right.
A similar size community right here in Lake County pays for 27 police officers and has a $4.2 million budget to do that. So when you look at the numbers and you talk about using all of the resources of the Lake County Sheriff's Office, we're talking about funding 10 deputies. If you look at national statistics, and I don't agree with them, but they say for every 1,000 residents, you should have 2 police officers. So if you do the calculation, Concord should be at least 40 police officers. I don't agree with that, but that gives you some idea of some of the numbers out there that are being funded. So it sort of puts things in perspective.
Thank you. Any conversation about Mr. Tekenip's recommendation? It was for Resolution 2317, item D on the agenda.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Tekenip's recommendation, and looking at sort of the numbers that he gave. Even with the highest amount, and after 2028, we're still going to be not looking great. But I think we have to sort of find a middle ground, because as Mr. Massey said, we don't know what's going to happen with the local government fund. I'm not very positive about that, but still, you don't know. You don't know what other opportunities we may have. So I feel like a middle of the road option seems most appropriate.
There's a lot of things. I mean, obviously Concord's going to continue growing, property taxes, whatnot, Chad, and so forth. So I think, again, I go back to the term of the 5 years. I mean, that gives us that time to deal with it and to manage. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Right, and it gives us time to reevaluate, and like, you know, other people have said, there might be other financial streams that we could use to fund those resources.
I do think, though, that the lowest amount, to me, is just a little too lean, a little too scary, just based on everything that's happening. I guess if you can comment on the future at all of, in the next 5 years, where do you see the sheriff's department, or, you know, hiring and retaining? Is there any, do you have any comment on that?
Throughout the last 4 years, we haven't lowered our standards. Even when recruiting was difficult, we didn't lower our standards. Because of that, we went out and sought the best individuals possible. And what that brought us is those individuals who were excellent in the field went out and found other excellent people to come into the Lake County Sheriff's Office. I'm very proud of the staff that's there right now. Going into the future, I don't see us losing individuals. Why? There are two things. One, obviously, is we made an adjustment to salaries. And so that stops some of the experienced people from leaving. But I also think we created a great culture of an organization where people want to stay. They want to build a future not only for themselves, but for their families. And finally, I should say there's a third, it's the community. Lake County is extremely supportive of law enforcement. And I think a community like Concord is extremely supportive of the Lake County Sheriff's Office. And because of that, they want to get up every day, they want to come to work, and they want to do a good job for the people that support them. So I believe it will be stabilized over the coming years.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Sheriff. Further comment? Are we ready to some votes? Okay, just remember we'll have an affirmative motion to vote, and then we'll call a roll call vote for each
Yes, sir.
agenda item.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 2023-16, a resolution by the Concord Township Board of Trustees, Lake County, Ohio, to proceed with the submission of the replacement of an existing and continuous 4.0 mil tax levy with an increase of 2.3 mils for a total of 6.3 mils tax levy in excess of the 10 mil limitation for fire, police, ambulance, and emergency medical services, and declaring an emergency.
Second. Okay, and having had discussion on that already, Mr. Rose, will you call a roll on that?
Certainly. Mr. Dondorfer,
No.
Mrs. Lucci,
No.
Mr. McIntosh.
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-17, a resolution by the Concord Township Board of Trustees, Lake County, Ohio, to proceed with the submission of the replacement of an existing and continuous 4.0 mils tax levy with an increase of 2.5 mils for a total of 6.5 mils tax levy for 5 years in excess of the 10 mil limitation for fire, police, ambulance, and emergency medical services, and declaring an emergency.
And I'll second.
Mr. Rose, roll call, please.
Mr. Dondorfer,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucci,
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh.
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 2023-18, a resolution by the Concord Township Board of Trustees, Lake County, Ohio, to proceed with the submission of the replacement of an existing and continuous 4.0 mils tax levy with an increase of 3.0 mils for a total of 7.0 mils tax levy for 5 years in excess of the 10 mil limitation for fire, police, ambulance, and emergency medical services and declaring an emergency.
Second?
And Mr. Rose?
Mr. Dondorfer?
No.
Mrs. Lucci?
No.
Mr. McIntosh?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, and last items on the agenda was, we voted at the staff meeting on Monday, July 31st. There was a couple of just technical resubmission of the resolutions we all approved to submit. So I'll just read them quickly. Resolution 2023-13 declaring it necessary to levy a 6.3 replacement tax levy for 5 years for the purpose of providing sufficient funding for police, fire, ambulance, and emergency medical services. Mrs. Lucci moved to adopt the resolution, and I seconded. Roll call vote. Mr. McIntosh, Mrs. Lucci voted yes. Resolution 2023-14 declaring it necessary to levy a 6.5 replacement tax levy for 5 years for the purpose of providing sufficient funding for police, fire, ambulance, and emergency medical services. Mrs. Lucci moved to adopt the resolution. I offered a second, and both Mrs. Lucci and myself voted yes. Resolution 2023-15 declaring it necessary to levy 7 mil replacement levy of 5 years for the purpose of providing sufficient funding for police, fire, ambulance, emergency medical services. Mrs. Lucci moved to adopt the resolution. I offered a second, and both of us voted yes. So, with that, future meetings and announcements.
On August 9th at 7 p.m., a BZA meeting will be held at Town Hall. On August 28th at 3 p.m., a staff meeting will be held at Town Hall. Town Hall will be closed on Labor Day, September 4th. On August 5th at 7 p.m., a zoning commission meeting will be held at Town Hall. And finally, on August 6th, between the hours of 6:30 and 7:30 p.m., trustee office hours will be held in the conference room. And also on August 6th, following the trustee office hours, will be a 7:30 p.m. trustee meeting at Town Hall. September.
All right. And with that, we will be adjourned.
Good evening.
Thank you.